So it's good to be back. I've done it. This is my third time. I've done it in 2023, 2024, and this is 2025. So kudos to Naveen and the group for running this for so long. Yeah, yeah, like Naveen said, I'm currently at Tekion. I have a dual role as a CIO CISO. We build SaaS for the automotive space. Prior to this, I had a similar role at ChargePoint, where we were building out the electric vehicle infrastructure. And before that, with spent a little bit of time at Facebook, eBay, and some of the other companies out there in the valley. So glad to be here.
Thank you, Teza. And then we have Luis. Luis, so thank you for joining so early. I think it's 8 o'clock, I guess, in Philippines.
Yes, it is. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Luis is CISO at a company called Emapta, which is like a big company, outsourcing about 10,000 folks, team company. So Luis, would you like to, and Luis, like to be like a real secret cybersecurity warrior, so he doesn't have a LinkedIn profile, just in case you should look for it. So, Luis, I would like you to introduce yourself a little bit more,
Hi,
what you want to
everyone.
share.
Hi, my name is Luis. I'm the CISO for Emapta. We're a talent as a service BPO. We have around 9,000 plus employees with around 800 plus clients on different countries. So we have scattered around the world. So we have Philippines, which is majority of our offices, US, Australia, Macedonia, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, and a lot of other places. I work with different organizations from across the board, starting my career with financials, bank. I used to be the CISO for the fintech subsidiary of one of our big banks here in the Philippines. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Naveen, for inviting me. I'm glad to see such talented and distinguished attendees here. So looking forward to having this discussion with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis. Yeah, and our third panelist today, actually, you might have seen the name Karthik, but I think he changed his name today, called Paxi now. Sorry, Karthik couldn't be there. He had some other meeting to attend to. So I said, okay, you have to have your another co-founder. So Paxi is the co-founder and chief AI and product officer at a company called Portal 26. So Paxi, would you like to enlighten us with your wonderful background?
Yeah, Karthik apologized. We are doing fundraising and we have a VC meeting and one of us have to take it. And today's focus is engineering, so he went there as a head of engineering. So I'm filling in for him. My name is Pakshi. I'm head of products at co-founder of this company called Portal 26. I have been in product management, quasi engineering role for 25 plus years in the Valley. I have sold in this company, at least, we primarily target CISO as our customer or ideal customer profile. And don't worry, Naveen has warned me sufficiently that don't sell to anybody in this call, so I won't be selling to anybody. Yeah, so I have experience talking to 100 plus CISOs. I've presented in forums of CISOs several times. My background is most recent background is at a company called Data Robot. I built the SaaS delivery platform for auto machine learning and ML ops. And before that, a lot of enterprise software, a lot of platform, big data, security focus. So that's my background. Over to you back, Naveen.
Yeah, thank you, Paxi. Really appreciate it. So we have. So with that, let's. So our theme today is again. So at least one theme we cover in every CISO roundtable, because obviously we have new CISOs. Sometimes obviously we have repeat CISOs, but a number of new folks. So is about the role of CISOs, because as you have seen, the role of CISOs have evolved very, continues to evolve almost, right? Every year, month by month, in new technology, especially with the advent of even a lot of AI applications now. So with that, I would like Teza to maybe talk a little bit about how do you see, Teza, since you started in this CISO, and of course you've been playing CIO roles in last few companies, both dual roles, that how it has evolved over the years in your career, and how do you see Where do you see it's going over the next 5 years period? I mean, if you can see that far off.
Yeah, thanks, Naveen. And I think to a large extent, I have lived through this journey myself over the last 25 years. You know, when I started my own journey as a software developer, I was part of, you know, the CIO, CTO org. And then, you know, as years went by, I decided to move into the security track because there was nothing like security back in the day. And and then as I further progressed through my mid-career, late career, I had the CISO role since 2016. But the last 3 or 4 years, I've seen the CISO and CIO roles kind of merge together, especially in medium-sized companies, I would say, which are born in the cloud, don't have a lot of legacy to begin with. So there is no infrastructure overhead like the traditional CISOs had to run it. So you know, so my life has been kind of like uh, a developer to a security architect to a CISO and back to a CIO plus CISO kind of role, which has been fascinating. And you know, right now, if I take my typical day, I'm under the gun from my business to implement a lot of AI or AI related tools. Every exec leader that I go and talk to, they want to talk about how much of productivity can I drive through AI. um, and uh, and if I had to put in my security hat, I'm trying to do that balance, right? The juggle between both these worlds as to how do I drive productivity while balancing the right risk management framework with that. So that's been a very interesting you know, interesting journey for me the last, at least the last year to 18 months around this. I've seen a lot of CISOs now become CDOs out there. They become data officers. Some of them have become CTOs. So the line of CISO, while we were more of these risk management people, I think as time has evolved, as technology became more of the pinstone of getting a lot of things done, AI definitely helps. Um, CISOs come with that knowledge of that broad understanding of how different services, how different products work in the company, which is actually an asset, right? End of the day, you know, the world is your oyster kind of a thing, where the CISOs can define, hey, how do I want to do I want to be a purely practitionist around going deep, becoming the risk management, the security architect for the company, or do I want to use this knowledge of the business sense, become this business enabler, and do I want to expand horizontally across the organization? So that is where I think a lot of CISOs will be as their career progresses. If the company's progress and they have the right leader, they're encouraged to have that visibility, right? And that only continues to happen. So I'm excited about how security is becoming. With AI, I think security also becomes more and more critical. And you are asked not only to provide your opinion as an architecture or an engineering person or a risk management person, but also broadly, hey, because data is so critical to making AI work. And as a CISO, you can stitch that story very effectively, right? And you can either be that business enabler or you can draw the business back. So the choice is on you, and I have really loved doing both parts of this.
Thank you, Teja. Really appreciate.
Yeah.
Louis, so how about you? How do you see the same question is like CISO's role since you started in this particular area? How do you think it has evolved over the years, and where do you think it's going?
Yeah, I completely agree with Teza on this. Over the past few years, CISOs, especially the ones that are on the technical side of things, usually tend to be, gatekeepers because the the initial instinct of technical security guys are always on the defensive side. So they are usually seen as gatekeepers of the organizations. But as the years progress, CISOs learn or have to be enablers in their own organizations. excuse me, similar to what Teza has mentioned. We have to learn how to support the business. We have to understand how we can enable growth, support the business, make sure that we're not just driving security, but we also want to use security to to grow the business. So that's one. Another thing is with the advent of all of these technologies, AI, um, we have to learn to embrace these different emerging technologies and use that to our advantage and make sure that we have the right tools, we have the right resources within our disposal to help drive business goals. And another thing is we have to learn how to navigate the different regulatory and compliance landscape. So with the different organizations that we work with, we understand that different organizations have different compliance landscapes, and navigating those will become a critical part of our role, and not just not just defending the organization, protecting our organization's data, but also on the compliance side, privacy, GDPR, PCI DSS, a lot of these things. So it's really important that we drive those compliance initiatives and help the organization stay within our compliance requirements. So not to mention evolving threat landscape, that has always been a constant factor within the role of a CISO, regardless of which organization or industry you work for. Um, it's just a matter of how these evolving threats would potentially impact your organization. But regardless of which organization you work for or which industry, those will always be there. You're gonna have to manage that, identify those, what's on the horizon, and be prepared for it. So I guess those are the things that I think are impacting the roles of CISOs over the past few years, and of course moving forward.
Yeah, thank you, Luis. And how about Paxi? I know you've dealt probably here as well as in your past company, you deal with a lot of CISOs. And how have you seen over your careers when you have interacted with them in terms of the changing role? Yours kind of, your perspective. Not
Yeah,
as a CISO
absolutely. I think
practitioner.
I want to resonate both what Luis and Teza said. At one level, there is still a lot of things that CISOs used to do that has not changed. All the compliance regulatory framework, making sure the company is on top of all of that has not gone. Like that still exists, right? At the same time, there is, I think, there's a marked difference between CISO's responsibility today versus like even when I started this company 5-6 years ago. There's a big change. Let me quote two anecdotal data points. Stories are always interesting. People love stories. I was talking to the CEO of a very large code scanning, asset scanning company, Qualys, Sumit Thakur. I was talking to him about a month ago, and he said that CISOs are not responsible for just risk and security, but to balance risk and security with the value they're getting out of anything they're doing. And it's close to what like Teza was saying. It's almost like there is a business hat that that CISOs have to wear. And he was saying from his experience of selling to CIO and yes, Sumit is an amazing person. Randolph, great observation. So he was recounting this all from his experience, both selling to CIO and CISO, and he was saying it's not anymore, just keep the company safe and the risk low. It's really all about matching that with the business. I think that's very close to what Teza was talking about. The second thing is from my own experience. I was at a company called Data Robot, and I used to call our company a jukebox for ML models. you put in a CSV and put 50 cents at, well, 50 big cents, like $50,000. They would spit out an ML model, and it would be fully tested, ready to deploy models. And people would actually do that and then use it for predicting fraud or whatever they want to predict. It's a company we ran. In my experience working for big data and AI and ML, the world of the data scientist and the world of CISOs never collided. They were non-overlapping circles in the Venn diagram, and that was 2020. Okay, 2022, ChatGPT came out, and boy, oh boy, I mean, the world has changed substantially. Right now, the fundamental reasons, I think there are two reasons. One is in the simple world of data robot, where we used to spin up ML model, or machine learning is the most dominant form of AI. You made your own AI and you consumed your AI, so you are a lot more comfortable consuming AI, and a lot of security and governance happened while the AI is being created. So if you created a machine learning model by your own data scientists, your own engineers, that model is safe for consumption. It's almost like making food at home. You know exactly what ingredients went into it, and you would eat it without thinking about it. But if you go out and eat in a restaurant, which is kind of the equivalent of generative AI, there are about 24 companies that make AI. The remaining companies, the millions of companies, just consume AI. So you don't know what went into that cake. I mean, you're just ordering the cake and eating it. And also, to add to it, the people who are consuming it are not just data scientists and ML engineers. It's being consumed by accounts receivable, payroll, finance. Everybody is consuming this AI, right? And not everybody is fully aware of the terms of engagement, privacy policies, anything like that. So it's become a lot more complex. The world of AI and the world of CISO are practically overlapping circles right now. And like what Teza mentioned, the entire executive team and the board is looking upon the CISO to come up with an answer, to come up with a responsible way of driving the company forward without compromising security. So in other words, business enablement is, I think, a very strong perspective that CISOs have to now take. There's no choice. I think it's, for better or worse, it's falling on the hands of CISO in almost all organizations I've talked to. So that's my two data points that I would add. And there's plenty of other things to talk about, right? Like, ransomware hasn't gone, your security is not within the firewall anymore. There is, move it vulnerability, it happens, starts with supply chain of every vendor that you start with. All that has not changed. But over time, I think, CISOs are being asked to wear a business hat, and AI has only made it complex. I think that's what I saw between 2021 and today. That's pretty much my entire experience working with CISOs in the industry.
Thank you, Pakshi. I really like your example of a cake recipe. Now you're making me hungry here. All right. So how about, like, we have other experiences shows in the group here, maybe just their perspective also before we jump into our theme of the day. Randy, if you want to chime in. I know Randy also has been a veteran CISO from the WebEx days. I guess.
Yeah, happy to. Thank you. So, back in 2000 when I was over at WebEx, the security role was just focused on firewalls, protecting the perimeter and living deep in the data center. And security wasn't even a board level concern at all. It was more of an IT function. Actually talked about Sumedh in Qualys. And so we were one of the early adopters of security. And one of the things that we were scared about is giving our security information to anybody else outside of our organization, but they were able to convince us. Back then, Philippe was the CEO. And so the community was very small. The ISSA chapter was there, but we talked to them a little bit, but a lot of us were really, really new to security. We relied more on the auditors, like, some of the big fives or big fours at the time. And so that helped shape some of our security. But over the years after that, the community started building up. And when I started working at Qualys as their CISO, I started noticing a huge community drive from vendors or from security companies, and that was very important to me. It was important for me to see a lot of these security companies help contribute to the security community. Now today, and that helped me as a CISO because that helped shape me to where I'm at. But now CISOs are held personally accountable under regulations like SEC rules and the EU NIS2. And so it creates a lot more pressure for CISOs today. Majority of them are afraid that they're going to lose their jobs because of a breach. So they're balancing compliance demands, like Luis mentioned, GDPR and now DORA. And they're also, while trying to figure out how to address the threats that require behavior-based detection, not just legacy tools. So now that we're navigating the risks of AI, integrating frameworks like ISO 42001, and safeguard against any misuse, and also protecting data, there's also conversations that CISOs now have to face, and that is separating the whole compliance with the actual information security side of the house. And so how do you manage through that? And how do you ensure that both parties agree on the alignment? So you're starting to see compliance move towards legal, information security remaining in security. In large organizations, that's something that is that's been tested. Sometimes it gets back together, but then it goes through its separate ways depending on where the direction of the company is headed to. But I believe the future of the CISO, and I actually have a dark reading post on this, and I'll post the link on this, but I think CISOs are the future architect of resilience. So they have to align security with business strategy and driving transformation. But just to sum it up, it came from hugging hardware to advising boards. And I think the CISO is, if not already in that place, the most strategic and high impacting roles in any company today.
Any other CISO or anyone wants to provide before we jump in? One more on this.
Naveen, I would just like to add something
please.
based on what Randy has shared. It's a good example that in the past, security drivers came from the auditors, and then eventually it grew within the organization, the security leaders themselves. And what I'm seeing now is, as security leaders, we have to make sure that we also cascade that security mindset, not just in IT but also in our own employees. Driving that security culture. Although we are the ones that spearhead it, but we can't do it alone. Everybody has to get involved. It doesn't matter, how much security budget I have. It just takes one person with the right administrative privileges to click a link or download something that's not good, and it creates a lot of havoc. So building that security first culture within an organization is something that I feel has to be given attention. As leaders, that has to be driven by us, and we have to make sure that our employees, our staff, have the right security mindset to help us defend the organization. So yeah, just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Luis. So next, let's jump into the next theme, which is more of the challenges for cybersecurity leaders in 2025. We felt like I know we'll get to the AI part. Everyone wants to hear and everyone wants to talk about it. That'll be next. But so Teza, I think it'll be great for you because I've been doing entrepreneurship, and I see that in every area, the way you interact with customers nowadays to get the customers even signed up is totally different than 10 years ago, right? Those who've been at least working for a while. So I'm sure you're also seeing that in every aspect of that. So what are the key challenges you see as a cybersecurity leader in today's environment?
So, when I would say the bigger wave before this as a security person was probably using of third-party software or adoption of cloud. Things like that were like big waves from a security standpoint, and it was concentrated on different teams within the organization. primarily it was in most cases the engineering organizations, right? But with the way AI has been adopted, or LLMs have been adopted, I have three different types of users. I have my engineers who want to probably use models from like Hugging Face or other places. And as most of you know, as of like 2 weeks back, Hugging Face has 1,500 different models, which can lead to like security breaches and security vulnerabilities, right? So these forums are there, which are just filled with good, but also a lot of bad out there. So that is one class of users. The next class of users is I have at least 300 SaaS companies at my company, which are saying they have some kind of a LLM or an agent model, right? So I have from large SaaS companies to smaller SaaS companies that my organization uses. Everyone has an LLM or an agent that they're providing, from Salesforce to Workday to other companies. And then I have a third class, which is more around enterprise search, enterprise LLM, right? So my biggest challenge, Naveen, that you're asking is governance today. The governance around the different types of users and different types of models that are coming in. One, how do you gate it properly? How do you make sure you're keeping a time check on the nature of how it has been used, what has been exposed to it, and how do you promote the culture to make sure this is properly adopted? That continues to be my biggest challenge, and you could break it down into compliance risks, and you could say, hey, there's a lot of non-human identities that are being generated out of this. There are a lot of, so all that like fills into that whole traditional security risk that we've seen, but this kind of promotes or accelerates more of that. So that's a huge concern.
Thank you, Teza. It's a very good point. How about Luis? How do you see as a cybersecurity leader the challenges in 2025? And since you have a huge organization as well, right, which is across
Yeah.
the world.
I I I resonate with Teza on this. Governance is something that is a huge deal for my organization. Our client base, we have a very huge client base from different countries, different industries, um, different risk landscape. Some are GDPR, some are HIPAA. We have PCIDS as clients.
Mm.
Protecting their data is something that is, we have to juggle on a daily basis, and navigating around those compliance requirements are um, seriously making my head hurt. Because one example is we have a potential client coming in with 20 headcount. Um, they are processing healthcare information in the US. So right off the bat, the risk for this client goes off the roof. So from a CISO standpoint, we have to identify how we're going to protect their data. Do we have the correct infrastructure to support the service, and also at the same time ensuring that we can comply with our contractual requirement with them in protecting their data, those kind of things. And the diversity of all of these different clients doesn't make it easier. The complex level really goes through the roof, and I guess that's one of the things that a huge challenge for me. Not to mention that these clients have their own sometimes their own preference of tools. So our exposure to third party threats would also increase. So the advent of AI as well, everyone wants to jump into the AI bandwagon. Factoring that in on our role as business enablers, yeah, it really um, makes things really hard for us. But we have to push through on that, and We have to make sure that we support our clients and also at the same time protecting their data. So yeah.
Thank you, Luis. Appreciate it. Paxi, I mean, this is more again from how do you see, you talk to a lot of customers, I'm sure they talk about the challenges, I'm sure you're trying to sell your solution, but what else do you hear from them in terms of the challenges from them?
So let me talk a little bit more about what Teza brought up. It's close to my heart because we started, we started with this problem, like what does AI governance even mean? And I had to pretty much unlearn everything I learned at Data Robot and start from a completely new perspective. So I knew about data governance. That was my pedigree before I got into the AI and ML. And governance in the at least data governance world was about an overlay on top of an existing project or existing initiatives where you maximize value and you minimize risk. That's the idea. Like, how do you get most out of something while keeping the boogeyman or woman outside? With AI, in particularly generative AI, there's a lot of value. I mean, you do want to know who is getting what value within the company. In a company as large as one that Luis is running, Luis is working for, it could be very challenging. It's diverse. There's very large group. If you have consulting, the first thing that consultants do when they get documents from their clients is to get it summarized by an AI. Who has time to read 80-page documents anymore? So there's a lot of AI usage. Some are very ad hoc. Some are very organized. You've stood up a model and you're using it internally, responsibly, etc. So on the one hand, there's value. On the other hand, there is risk. And I'm pretty sure everybody in this group already are aware of. But as I articulate, the key problems that are faced by CISOs when it comes to AI risk. And again, I'm not talking about. Hi, Murali, can you please mute your phone?
10 minutes.
Okay. So there's like the key risk we're talking about. There are two broad categories. Can attackers leverage AI to actually sharpen their attack? That's one thing. I'm not talking about that right now. I'm talking about just the inherent risk of your employees using AI. I think there are three risks. One is the risk of your sensitive data, whether it is the data attributes that Luis talked about, PCI DSS compliant data, PII data, PHI data, falling in the hands of the model. So keeping your data safe from model is risk number one, right? Risk number two is keeping your model safe from people, right? So once you take a model and put it up, let's say you actually choose to bring a model in-house, you stand a model up on Amazon Bedrock, Azure, OpenAI, Google Vertex, etc. Keeping that model safe is not easy either, because that model, the minute you bring it up and put it in production, it's being attacked by both malicious insiders and external. To the extent the model is exposed outside, it's subject to jailbreaking or data poisoning or prompt injection. I mean, you name it, it's there, it's happening, right? Lastly, you want to keep your people safe as well from the model, because the model can hallucinate. And the model can actually spit out copyrighted data. So yesterday I was talking to the CISO at Sony, and he was really, really scared about people going to AI, not because they're going to do something wrong, but AI is going to give an answer that uses the IP of not Paramount, somebody else, let's say MGM. And then like that could seep into Sony. And so they're worried about, all three risks: keeping the data safe, keeping the model safe from attack, and keeping the people or the consumers of the AI safe from the model itself. All three are critical, very germane risks when it comes to AI governance. As a CISO, my customers who have been with me for 2 years or more, they are slightly further along in the journey of worrying about the risks to now trying to keep the risk at par with the value they're getting. Because oftentimes we get lost into the world of risk and want to get rid of the last amoeba of risk, and that's not possible. Everybody knows it. So now once you have some safety net, it's easier to from that point on look at is the risk commensurate with the value. That's I focus a lot on AI. That's my expertise. But I'm pretty sure there is a lot of other stuff that are also challenging. Ransomware has not gone away. I mean, there used to be a lot of headlines about 2-3 years ago. The Tyson. I mean, there was a food company. There was an electrical grid in the East Coast. I mean, these are all headline news. That has not gone away. AI-powered attacks like deep fakes, they're not going away. I mean, they're doubling up, if anything. Yeah, I mean, there's just that world is not changing.
All right. Thank you, Pakshi, for your elaborate answer. So what are anyone in the audience, just before we jump into the third theme for the day, who'd like to talk about challenges? Jayashree, you're here also, I see. How do you see it? I know you're part of a large organization. Maybe you can introduce 2 lines if you want to say something on what are the challenges you see from your organizational perspective for the cybersecurity leaders.
Yeah, no, so I think at Humana we are still catching up on AI. We have not converted, I mean, we are all still trying to learn so that we can implement it. Yeah, we have not, yeah. In fact, I would like to have pointers of how to learn, and I think I'm getting some answers. So,
Randy, it looks like you want to say something.
Yeah, I think I always look at it in threes, and it's the first 2 is similar to what's already been talked about: regulatory pressures, expanding responsibility, and that ties into what we talked about earlier, which is the personal liability side of the house. The second one is evolving threats and some of the tech gaps that comes into place, and that's the stealthy attacks, those slow and low attack methods that are coming out. So signature-based security is no longer a good, strong approach. Behavioral-based technology is probably the direction that most people want to go. AI is definitely the third one, but I want to take a different perspective of this, and that is, I agree with everything that's said about AI and security. However, as a CISO, the biggest challenge we have is how do we go in and say no, especially to companies that need to innovate. So this is the speed of AI and how it's been quickly adopted, integrated into tools, trying to get in the market. So we can't just say default no. Actually, we haven't been saying that for a long time, but more so with AI. We now have to say yes with guardrails, or yes, security risks, we need to follow up on this. And so what we're seeing as the biggest challenge in my view is, how do you balance that innovation drive with some of the calculated risk, and how do you calculate that risk? I think that's one of the biggest challenges that I'm seeing, but agree with everybody else in what they're saying too.
Thank you, Randy. Louis, it looks like you'd like to add.
Yeah, I'd like to add up on what Randy has mentioned. It's actually a good point. Saying no, especially when it comes to adopting AI technologies. My take on this is, um, actually this one is really hard for me, given that I'm a risk averse guy. That has always been my default, given that I'm coming from a technical security standpoint. But I've learned, in this couple of months or even past few years, that saying no to new technologies that are being adapted is really really hard. I think what I learned here is, at first you have to understand what's the real use case. AI, there's a lot of use, um, but you have to understand, how do we want to use AI? Because you have to start from understanding what's the business case, or what's the use case of a specific AI technology, getting a good understanding on how the organization wants to use it, and how will it drive value and give value to the organization. Because through that understanding, you'll be able to identify what are the potential risks around our use case, or this use case that we want to drive forward with. And from that, after you've identified the risk, are these risks something that we want to mitigate, or of course Um, are these risks something that we don't want to take? So then the usual risk management practice comes in. But everything has to start with identifying how do you want to use a specific AI technology and how will that add value to the organization and to the business. So,
And thank you, Luis. So with that, let's the last is more again. We're already kind of touching base on the AI side of the things. The third theme today we wanted to see is to talk more in detail about the impact of AI on security and infrastructure. So I think Teja, you have a large organization also, and which is growing. So I'm sure every day you have, I call it, adventurous challenges rather than headaches. So how do you see I mean, you already talked about AI impact on from three categories you mentioned. So how do you see, if you want to elaborate more on the impact of AI on security and infrastructure, or harnessing AI for defense and managing new AI-driven risks?
Absolutely. I think what I'm seeing is we are on full on mode in terms of how do we enable AI both for our customers when they use our platform, as well as internally for our employees, right? And when what we are seeing from a customer standpoint is a lot of questions around how the model is being trained, what data. So we have legal agreements in place where the customers can choose not to allow the data to be part of a training model, or there are customers who choose to do that, or there are customers who say, hey, I want a model, but I only want it to be trained with my data, right? I don't want you to use any other data. So they're like these different like an a la carte menu of coming in, and we have to review. So from a security standpoint, of course, we are making sure these are properly done. When it comes to our internal model, they're very data hungry, right? All these models are so data hungry. So we're trying to like create that balance around, hey, how do we make sure that we get the right insight, but we also balance it with appropriate permissions, the appropriate sanitization of output or input that's going into it. How do we ensure that these are properly managed as time goes by? For example, the access that you have today could be very different than the access that you have. So how do you kind of like merge both these models effectively to ensure that a salesperson cannot see somebody else's quota or things like that, right? So those could be the minute ones, and you could go further and further into PII risks and payroll risks and all that. So a lot of training and education and talking to a lot of our customers. We're also going for the 42,001 this year. So that's an ambitious, we're going to be using Akitra's platform for doing that. So so a lot of great things in the pipeline for us.
Thank you, Teja,
Yes.
for endorsing us
Yeah.
and being our customer, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how about Luis or Pakshi? You would like to also talk? I know you also talked to Pakshi already quite a bit, since your company is involved a lot on the AI security stuff. Either of you?
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much everything that Teza said is spot on. With the AI, keeping your data safe. A lot of companies that I know, they are taking the next step. Keeping the data safe is still the top of the list for a lot of people. Keeping the model safe, keeping the people safe from hallucination is second and third. But keeping your sensitive data, especially safe from public LLMs, is huge. Because there are 200 new sites coming up every day. As of October, when is it? Like November 2022, that's when ChatGPT came out. There are 72,000 companies in the AI space. 72,000. Not all of them are providing an AI offering. Many of them are governance platform or prompt injection, prompt engineering platforms. But I mean, just the ridiculous level of explosiveness here. How do you keep your data safe from 200 new sites every day? You have to know what AI is being used within your company. Somebody referred to this as shadow AI in the very beginning. You have to know it. You have to conquer that completely, right? And once you have done all of that stuff, then comes the empowered posture of, how do I tackle keeping my data safe? You have really just two choices, and this is the stark reality. There's only two choices. One, license the technology. If a lot of people are using it, sign up an enterprise license that will keep your data safe. And if the other option is to bring it in-house, figure out what people are doing that's very valuable and give users an alternative, which could be on Amazon Bedrock, Azure, OpenAI, Google Vertex. Those are the proven strategies. There may be other ways. I don't think you can block your way to safety. Awareness, education is really important part of this. At CISO, everybody knows education is a huge part. Policy attestations are a huge part. But I think having people understand the risks involved, educating them, encouraging them to use one main. I went to an office. One of my customers, they are in the travel space, very large travel conglomerate, 80,000 employees. I went to their offices in Seattle and in Gurgaon, and they had like a big poster of Satya Nadella. And I was just joking, basically because they have, Microsoft Copilot. They have licensed, and they want everyone to use Microsoft Copilot, and they want everyone to use AI for everything that they can possibly do with AI. So they're not blocking AI. In fact, they're encouraging AI. If some efficiency is to be gained by using AI, you should use it. Nothing is taboo. Just be aware of what you put in which AI, and as long as it's internal AI, which is licensed, you're fine. I mean, it's not a huge deal. There's actually one other thing that Teza mentioned, which is also very germane, which is if you bring internal AI, right? Let's say you brought, all the usage of public Chat GPT to, AWS Bedrock, Llama 3 or Sonnet 3. Well, that you still have a problem of HR data being seen by engineering data being seen by somebody else. If you ever train your model on the data internally, that risk exists. So a lot of people don't train their models. That's what they do. They don't train the models on the prompts. They just keep the model immutable. That way the model is not poisoned with the prompts. The most recent innovations in this area came from Anthropic. That's the Model Control Protocol. I don't know if you guys have seen the MCP. That is super promising. Instead of just ragging means basically you query some database and then you append the results into your system prompt. This MCP is actually using the interfaces of your existing services in the actual body of AI. And so because you're using interfaces, the interfaces are security aware. So potentially there's some possibility there that can keep your data safe, especially cross-departmental, if you choose to make the internal models mutable. But I think the best bet is to make your internal models immutable. That way you are generally not worrying about, engineering seeing HR questions and legal seeing HR, things like that. I'll stop there. Over to you back.
Thank you. Luis, how about you? Anything on this AI infrastructure? You guys, any initiatives you guys are thinking, or how are you seeing it?
It's always been for AI on the security side. It's always been leveraging its capabilities to enhance our threat detection and defenses. So AI is something that's a double-edged sword. Yeah. So you have the risks and the threats that are being brought upon by AI. You have to also look on the other side of the coin, which is what are the things that you can benefit from. So one of we utilize AI for threat detection. Over the past few years, it's been called even before AI, it's been called behavioral analysis or anomaly detection, and now it's called AI. Where we've used AI for threat intelligence as well. So leveraging AI from a security standpoint is something that as security leaders really important because it's there. So we have to take advantage of its benefits and use that to our advantage, and hopefully try to counter or prepare for other AI threats that are emerging right now. So in my previous organizations, we had a deep fake attack on one of our executives, which is really good. One of our accounting people got a call uh, to to uh, to do a meeting, a Zoom meeting, and then it's one of our executives. The face, even the voice, was really the same. And it just so happened that our accounting person was, how should I say this? It was really suspicious. So she validated it, and lo and behold, it was a really sophisticated deepfake attack. So these kinds of threats are really out there and will only evolve and will only get better. So it's a matter of educating your people, putting in the right guardrails, as what Pakshi has mentioned. The use of AI for some organizations, they are really embracing it. So you have, as a leader, you have to put the right guardrails. You have to put your the appropriate governance so that you can enable your business and also at the same time manage the potential risks of embracing these technologies. So yeah.
Thank you, Luis. So I know we are almost time, but I wanted to ask a lot of new folks are here. I see here, maybe you can, Albert, Rob, anyone who wants to pick, you want to provide insights? I know you're putting some notes in the chat box. So from your perspective, how do you see, some insights you want to provide to the audience?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I can I can answer this. Nice to meet you, everyone. I was for the first time here. It is a great meetup, and thank you for all the information from the speakers. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we just noticed is similar as
Your
with
volume
API
is really low.
infrastructure. Oh, sorry, you can't hear
Yeah,
me?
I can hear. I mean, how about other folks? Can
Oh,
you guys
okay,
hear?
good. I was just
We are
wondering
good.
that. Yeah, similar like APIs, we need to be able to secure the infrastructure around it and the access controls, right? And then, of course, the prompt injections are different than the injections that you can make on on normal API calls. So we need to kind of account for this and even more, put a little bit of a cage around all of the efforts there, and to ensure that our back controls, or like someone else in the chat was just mentioning, maybe even go beyond that, are being enforced, because right now people are just treating it as basically open access within an internal network. We have seen this way too often, and people should, given this is a new technology, do it right from the ground up. And yeah, that's just our take from it.
Thank you. Thank you. Prasad, Varakur is here. Prasad, do you have anything? Any insights or any questions you have? I'm just trying to go around folks to if they want to just make sure everyone can get an opportunity before we just adjourn for the day. Anyone else has any insights or questions? Henriette?
I think Raji raised her hand.
Okay.
I'm,
Yeah, 1 second.
I'm good for now. Thank you. Just
Thank
still
you.
learning. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Henriette. Rajiv,
Yeah, Naveen, awesome CISO meetup. Thanks everyone for taking time. Good to meet. No, I just want to make an observation. I'm very interested in understanding more real world situation, because every time I go and present anywhere on a stage, I hear at least one, and this time is no exception in this virtual stage. Also, at least one story of a deepfake attack. And, it is just something that I think we surely as leaders, like first we have to make sure everybody is aware of it, right? So Louis, your idea that your employee knew enough to ask and things like that was a kind of testament that you've got a good culture right, of safety and security, trust but verify kind of culture. But it can also be very, very tiring and very hard to scale in very large organizations because people just do their business, and just a general observation that with all AI tools, just like any other tool, with a lot of open source and democratization and easy availability, it's often, as they saw within quotes, bad guys get to learn this and use that way more effectively and faster than people defending against it. So we got to be watchful of that dynamics. It's no different than any other, technology, groundbreaking technology. It's easier for people who have no rules to follow, than for people who have to do it in a responsible way in organizations, and we have to keep that culture up.
Thank you, Raji. Raj Kapani is here. Hi, Raj. Good to see you here. Do you have any questions or insights? Looks like you're on mute.
No, I just took off mute. Well, thanks, Naveen, for inviting, and pleasure meeting everybody. I'm just curious what the thoughts are about the current administration affecting how this industry will play out. Specifically, will there be any repercussions, or is it business as usual?
Wants to take a crack at it? Teja, Luis, or anyone else?
So my 2 cents, right? Like I think the last couple of years, CISA has played an amazing role, I would say, in terms of driving a lot of the public-private partnership. It'll be interesting to see what direction that evolves to, right, in the next couple of years. But I also see, the private sector has always coped with any kind of bumps, ups and downs. So we've always solved these things whenever it needed to. What may change is the intelligence that we obtain from the CISA level. But I see that as a short-term risk, but industry would catch up. There'll be new players who can fill that gap. That's how I look at it. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So any other one, like any other question? Anyone else want to participate who's new here? Please introduce 2 lines about yourself, and so at least you get an opportunity to ask or even provide your insights. Murali, I see Han, Kanti. I'm just kind of naming out what I see. Rama, Baski, Prasad, Andre, Subra, Rob, Steve, Vida. Otherwise, I'm just thanking everyone as I'm naming you out for coming. Derek, Jesse, and Albert obviously spoke. Apurv. All right. So with that, if you don't have anything, any passing words from my 3 wonderful panelists who made the time to come in. Again, Louis.
Yeah, just one question before we, if you may allow.
Yeah,
so
please.
I think when more applications or vendors are starting to use AI as part of their offering, right? I'm wondering how the security teams are evaluating, because one is using AI within the enterprise, another one is using AI within a vendor's product, right? Now, this could be an additional feature or a new version that they are releasing. Maybe they don't go through the full security due diligence and whatnot, right? How is the CISOs or security folks looking at that, and any thoughts on the governance process to mitigate the risks that are involved in vendors using AI within their toolkits? Any thoughts on that?
Murali, I'm just chiming in very quickly. This is like a very core offering in our platform. I'm sharing that only because we find almost 10x larger number of, like, in terms of companies that offer direct AI, which means that they allow you to interact with the generative AI versus company that offer something else, CRM, ERP, but they use AI in the background, the latter category is almost 10x bigger than the former category, and it's growing like a wildfire. And there's so far, like I have not seen any clean supply chain AI assessment guidance. And like you said, many of them are approved vendors, so they're not like, it's not like getting a new vendor approval because they have AI. But I've seen like, companies where we have sold our product into as a SaaS software company. When we added AI, many of my customers made it their job to look at our privacy policy, look at our SOC certification, our ISO certification, all that stuff. Like they looked into it, and it would not be, and I'm going out on a limb and saying that it would not be unreasonable if you were to take that posture where you do audit the companies that you've already approved. It's very easy to find out which companies have AI and which ones doesn't among your supply chain, among your suppliers. But you wouldn't be unreasonable. I've actually been through some of those, me being a software vendor.
Yeah, especially with SaaS providers and SaaS solutions, they might have an AI capability, right? And in the upcoming version, it might be an add-on, which might or might not be turned on. So,
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Murali. Anyone else? So I think otherwise we will adjourn the thing, and then again.
Yeah, I have a question. To Mr. Pakshirajan. This is Baski Mohan. So I have been in the product world as well as engineering world of lawful intercept and other data governance products. So he was mentioning about great analogy of home cooked food and then restaurant food in terms of acquiring data, right? So one concern he brought up was like, how do you make sure the information you are getting, giving it to these chat GPTs and all these things are secure? So doesn't anonymization and then tokenization and these kind of methods take care of it automatically?
I think you're referring to like maybe a network DLP product doing something like this, like if you have Zscaler or Palo Alto, Sky High, some of them could do it. A lot of them are not set up properly in most companies. I've actually looked personally at least about 25 companies, Netscope, Zscaler, and Palo configurations. I couldn't, except for one, I would say like most companies are laissez faire in terms of what they allow through the network. It's and I don't mean to say that this is an extensive sampling. This is just my experience looking at the configuration, and it's not very confidence inspiring. Let's put it that way. And then none of these tools actually do anonymization. Many of them will catch and stop, or maybe put you in browser isolation, but they don't anonymize. There are companies that will anonymize, but that requires special installation on either a browser plugin, browser extensions, or corporate browser like the one that Palo Alto bought. There's a company, I forgot, Talon, I think. Or you need to install your own proxy, and the proxy will do something like that. I've seen some of those things. They are in play, they are available, but a lot of people just let the traffic go through. That's just the way the world works today.
All right. So we're already 13 minutes past. I just don't want to hold on some of you folks. So I think we will just adjourn and really appreciate you all coming. Thank you for making it very exciting and obviously all the insights. So we'll have the next month also on May 26th. Usually we have it on 3rd or 4th. So we'll have other CISO experts. So please feel free to join and keep an eye for the postings. And lastly, I want to thank Apurv, who kind of helps me manage the whole thing. Apurva is here, she's a product manager. And in case you want to see some exciting products, you can always reach out to him, all agentic AI based and things like that, all that cool stuff. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Thank you so much.
Bye.
And please connect with
Thank
each
you.
other and
Thank you, everyone.
expanding your professional network. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Great
Thank you,
session as
Naveen.
always.
Thanks,
Thanks.
everyone.
Chatting with everyone.